Beyond the Game is on the road once again. This time our journey into quality storytelling takes us from our base in Istanbul, Turkey, on a 5,500 kilometer trip via Oslo in Norway to the heart of Iceland. We are in the Icelandic capital, Reykjavik, probably one of the unlikeliest destinations on planet Earth for the sport of cricket, but the Nordic nation is on an active mission to grow the game in the country. I'm Robert Adams. In this special edition of Beyond the Game, we'll explore their plans to become an associate member of the International Cricket Council. Not only that, we'll also look at their very bold claim that they are the inventors of the game of cricket. Iceland, the land of the midnight sun. With its breathtaking mountain peaks, ice fields, and vast plateaus, as well as the hundreds of active and inactive volcanoes, visitors from every part of the globe flock to its shores for photos to fill up their social media feeds. The Northern Lights, a bucket list item for so many, are an absolute marvel. Many a Hollywood blockbuster has been filmed in Iceland. The Fast and the Furious 8 had high-speed car chases through the country's glaciers. The names Bond, James Bond, the renowned international spy, famously escaped capture in an ice palace in the flick Die Another Day in 2002.
All units report, now!
And the multi-award-winning TV series Game of Thrones played out its scenes on the fictional continents of Westeros and Essos, but actually it was Iceland. Iceland is tiny and has less than 400,000 people, with the capital and largest city Reykjavik accounting for the biggest slice of the population, around 140,000. It's a melting pot of different cultures, with more than 100 nationalities represented here. The Nordic nation is consistently ranked in the top 5 list of happiest countries in the world. In 2024, they happily occupy 3rd place on that list. Iceland's people still fondly talk about the day the national football team, in their maiden appearance at the major tournament, knocked England out of the 2016 European Championships in the last 16. Their run at the World Cup in Russia 2 years later also remains a source of great pride. The country has produced a number of big-name sports stars who have excelled on the international stage. Olafur Stefansson is widely regarded as one of the best handball players the country has ever produced. And there's also been dominant CrossFit performances from the famed daughters: Annie Thorisdottir, Katrin Davidsdottir, Sara Sigmundsdottir, and Turidur Helgadottir. Annie is a 2-time CrossFit Games champion. If sports was a popularity contest, handball and athletics would be right at the top. Iceland have won 3 of their 4 Olympic medals in those sports. There's a big love for basketball in the country, as well as golf. Skiing is big, no surprise really, considering the abundance of snow. Then there's swimming, horseback riding, and archery, which are popular too. And in powerlifting, Magnus Ver Magnusson is considered one of the most accomplished lifters of all time. The Icelandic Titan has won the world's strongest man title 4 times.
29 seconds, Herbal Fury and the rest are beaten. This is real emotion for Magnus Ver Magnusson.
I'm happy now. Oh.
That was almost, I'm going to say it's almost as good. It was better than a 100-meter final. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh.
Glaringly absent from the list of the most popular sports in Iceland is cricket. But if the custodians of the game have their way, that will not be the case for much longer. They've outlined their ambitious plan to grow the game of cricket in the country. Iceland cricket has enjoyed a memorable innings so far. It's been around for a quarter of a century. Its co-founder watched the game on the TV in the 90s and was struck.
No one knew anything about it, and the scores were made no sense to us. 104 for 3 against 510, and we were just, what is this? So we just talked about it very irregularly for a few years until 1999, when a few of us were visiting England and decided to watch a cricket game. The first cricket match I went to was the World Cup final. The World Cup final, Pakistan and Australia, and we were helped by people who explained things to us. And after watching that match, we decided, yeah, this is a pretty fun sport.
Christensen bought some equipment, rallied the troops, and organised the cricket match. They snapped some pics and sent them over to the European Cricket Council.
They were very enthusiastic about it. They're like, oh, we're playing cricket in Iceland. Put us on their website as a developing nation. And from then on, we were bombarded with messages and phone calls from journalists and teams that wanted to play against us.
Sky Sports was one of the first reporting teams to pick up on the story.
Surely this is the last place on earth you'd find a game of cricket. But no, Icelanders are taking up our national summer sport.
And while the cricketers were hardly what you'd call world beaters, the enthusiasm and passion for a brand new pastime shone through.
It was just this atmosphere that I had to have. A cricket team here in Iceland, a real cricket game with two teams dressed in white and playing proper rules.
Iceland cricket had officially announced itself to the world. It's been a long, hard slog since their TV debut in 2001, and efforts to popularize the game in the country have been, well, a work in progress. But locals have been slowly warming to the idea of this bat and ball sport. Expats who have played the game in their home countries before moving to Iceland say they were thrilled to learn they could participate here too.
I didn't know that in Iceland they're also Icelandic team and they play cricket. So in the end of 2019 in the winter, I just searched in Facebook like Iceland cricket. So I text them like, hi, this is my name, I'm from Afghanistan, I'm here, I want to play cricket with you guys if it's okay. And they say, yeah, sure. I start there and I play with them that season, and then after that I just started to love it, and then after that I didn't miss any match, so I'm going regularly now, and yeah, it's been a great journey.
I realized very quickly that building something from scratch like cricket in Iceland needed a much bigger North Star than just us wanting to play. I mean, we could always play, there's no problem for that. We can always make those things. But if you really wanted to make it sustainable, we needed to have something that was much bigger. So I said, well, maybe we should make Iceland a cricket playing nation. Because we are a voluntary run organization, but we still elect all our officers. So I had to run on a platform, and to that, we had to build a good governance organization, we had to build a board, we had to kind of start interfacing with all the sports organizations within Iceland. And 2021, the 4th club was formed.
That number is up to 5 now.
Classic shot there. Beautiful high front elbow, cover drive for 4 from Cook.
And there are 4 tournaments in which these clubs compete.
Well stopped by Kamalakaran. Oh, there's going to be a run out. There is! Oh, direct hit from Rupan.
The 60-ball shootout is said to be the most exciting of the shorter format competitions. It is part of the T10 League. There is the T20 Iceland Premier League, or IPL for short, which has become quite a hit. And also the T20 knockout competition, which was launched in 2024, called the Midnight Sun Cup. Finally, there's the action-packed Valhalla Cup, which is a 40 overs league. Growing the game has been an ongoing project. cricket bosses will be the first to tell you slow and steady wins the race.
You need people who want to do this. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And not only do you need people to do this, you also need certain crazy people who would basically put all these other things in place so these people would want to play. People who love the sport, want to build the sport, and are willing to commit time, resources, and everything else in between.
I think the passion for cricket in Iceland has come from the cricket team and the cricket board, and lots of people here that have that love for the sport.
It's a very new thing for the Icelanders, the cricket, because we have to introduce them what is cricket. Most of the people they're asking like, cricket, is it baseball, kind of something like hockey?
I'm so excited because from 2016 to now the game has grown a lot. I mean, we have now 5 teams, and basically we will have a ground permanent that we can go practice and play all of our seasonal cricket there. So yeah, it's building to a level, but it's slowly building.
There's certainly been decent momentum. When Iceland opened their first cricket ground in 2019, they got the then Prime Minister, Katrin Jakobsdottir, to face the traditional first ball. Iceland Cricket are on a mission to get recognition from the International Cricket Council. They want associate member status, which means becoming an accredited governing body for cricket in the country. The ICC's list of requirements is a lengthy one. It includes a detailed governance system that's fit for purpose and includes a detailed written constitution containing provisions covering membership, AGMs and voting rights, and adequate integrity-related regulations covering anti-corruption, anti-doping and ethics, and is consistently applied. Generate a minimum of $2,500 of its own total revenues other than all forms of direct or indirect ICC funding in each of its previous 2 years. Have domestic competitions in place, which include a minimum of 8 men's senior teams. They'll of course need 3 more. Have satisfactory junior pathway structures in place. Have women's teams competing in domestic competitions.
The dream, at least from my perspective, is to see at least as many women's teams as there are men's teams in cricket in Iceland, and in both cases for the number of teams to grow.
For now, Iceland Cricket say they are well aware of the Herculean task ahead to meet the ICC's criteria. But it's all about the long game, and they are relishing the challenge of achieving their associate member status one day.
Before 2018, a lot of nations were what's called grandfathered. So they were just allowed into the system and they could meet these criteria at a point in time in the future. Now you have to meet them from the outset. That is tricky because in order to get ICC funding, you have to be an associate member. So that's one of the barriers that we have faced, but still, we are gradually overcoming this.
I don't think it's an impossible goal. I think it can be done. We can build infrastructure, and we are recruiting new players every day who want to play the sport.
I love the people. Every person brings something different, and when we all come together, we'll become a successful cricket system in Iceland. The most important part is love of the game, fun when you're bringing your mates together.
Iceland Cricket is staffed entirely by a group of part-timers. The players, administrators, executive board members, etc. all have day jobs. There's no money, so to speak. There's no headline sponsor. And now Iceland Cricket have taken their already ambitious plan to become an ICC associate member up a notch and launched a crowdfunding campaign to make it all possible. They want their fans to bankroll the dream. If this comes off, it will be yet another historic chapter in Iceland Cricket's storied journey. Before we get into the he said, she said, the history books say this about the origins of cricket, a history lesson in the sport that continues to enjoy increased popularity all across the world because historical context is everything. The history of cricket in 60 seconds. The sport is believed to have been started by kids hitting stones with wooden branches. The first adult game, according to the ICC, was in England in 1611. County cricket became a thing early in the 18th century. The first laws of cricket, including the famous leg before wicket or LBW, were written in 1744. The game was introduced to North America some years later, and then the West Indies by colonists, and India by touring mariners. Next, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa got a taste.
The toss was won by Man, who decided to bat first.
Cricket has gone through many transformations over the centuries that followed, and different formats have been introduced as the sport continues to make an impact in different parts of the world. To this day, Lord's Cricket Ground is referred to as the home of cricket.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here at Lord's.
Because the English believe the game started with them. Okay, now we get to the really interesting bit, and that is Iceland's claim that the game of cricket originated right here. Meet Kit Harris, well-known cricket commentator and published author.
Was that the leg I crossed?
His book, From Lords to Fjords, maps cricket's journey from the home of cricket in London to the frozen Nordic fjords. It unearths evidence suggesting a primitive form of the game existed long before it took off in England.
The Vikings had this sport called knatleikur, and there are 13 instances of this sport in the old Viking sagas from the 10th and 11th century. And if you break down all the elements of the sport that you can glean from the writings of the sagas, you find it has a number of characteristics, and pretty much all of them are very, very similar to cricket.
What knatleikur was team game, so players were divided into teams. There was a captain, there was a ball, there was a bat, there were runs, there was a boundary. You know, that's very much like cricket, right? So that's how we make this so-called outlandish claim.
One would think that England would have a thing or two to say about Iceland's assertion that it invented the game. But it's not a particularly big deal, says Harris, who's been closely involved with Iceland cricket for a number of years.
The English don't actually mind at all, because the English are sufficiently self-important but sufficiently conceited and self-secure in all their contributions to the history of the world that they don't mind finding out that their sport might have an ancestor in China, as I think is the case with football, or in Iceland, as is the case with cricket. The English had already decided, by their own account, that cricket had perhaps started in Belgium, Flanders, maybe somewhere on the European mainland. So once they realised it wasn't necessarily an all-English game, the idea that it might have gone through the Vikings from Iceland to Scandinavia to Flanders, they didn't bat an eyelid.
If cricket did indeed originate in Iceland, it would represent a full-circle moment for the sport. All of this, of course, adds another interesting dimension to the game in a global context. Cricket here is said to be one of the biggest agents of immigrant integration and an excellent vehicle for making refugees part of the social fabric of the country. It is one of Iceland cricket's proudest achievements. Iceland cricket is a melting pot of different cultures. Europe, Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, people from different walks of life are being represented. Employment has brought many immigrants here. For others, like 22-year-old Javed Miyakiel, it was an escape from war in his home country, Afghanistan. As the years-long deadly military conflict between the Taliban and US-led forces intensified, Miyakiel, just a teenager at the time, decided to flee. And we all remember the chaotic scenes from the US troops' withdrawal from the country in 2021.
I came here and then applied for asylum seeker, and I got international protection in 2020, in February 2020. And after that, I'm just living my life here. Now a few months ago, I got like a permanent resident of Iceland.
Miyakiel, who operates his own taxi in Iceland, doesn't want to talk too much about his childhood. He says that's all in the rearview mirror.
Life in Afghanistan was obviously hard. It's now also hard. But yeah, when you grow up in something, for you it look normal, but because I never went outside of Afghanistan on those time, I was in Afghanistan. But once you go out and you experience the other country life and everything, then you can feel the difference.
Miyakiel is not the only one referring to cricket in Iceland as a safe space while talking up the game's positives. Like these youngsters from Pakistan.
The cricket, playing cricket is a great platform for bringing different nations. And when you're in a foreign land, you see other people, different people, familiar faces to make sense of it, a different place. And cricket was the biggest part, is being a big part of in Iceland to bring other immigrants together so they can feel more appropriate with each other, more integrated, and it really help their self-identity to actually, make new friends and just be a vital part of the society over here.
What's your experience been?
Yeah, it's a good thing. Like we played with a lot of players. They're not originally from Iceland. They're immigrants here, but they're very comfortable with the team. Good environment for immigrants.
Cricket, it seems, has conspired to bring perfect strangers together.
Nicely done.
Everyone swears they're family now.
I enjoy playing here with the multicultural teams. We have people from different countries across the world. It's really good playing cricket with your buddies.
All-rounder Vaibhav is originally from India, and Keenan Botha is a former provincial cricketer from Cape Town.
Cricket is about bringing people together, and it's all about just making people happy. On the hottest days in Iceland, temperatures reach the mid-20s, that's in degrees Celsius. Summers, we are told, are legendary. It's the winter days and those sub-zero temperatures that are so problematic. Today, for example, the sun's come out to play, but early in the day, in fact just a few hours ago, it was non-stop rain, it was misty, it was overcast. And it's these kind of conditions that throw the cricket schedule into disarray. Icelanders have a running joke. They say if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. We saw this firsthand on our 30-minute drive from Reykjavik to Iceland cricket's home ground in Hafnarfjörður to interview national team captain Lakmal Bandara.
Even when the eruption was here, we can see the smoke and everything from the ground. It was just right there.
But he was quick to drive home the point that the weather could never dampen the players' enthusiasm for the sport. What is the dream? Like, where do you see Iceland cricket actually go?
Actually, my dream is at least Iceland to be a ICC recognized country to play. That's my goal.
Do you seriously think that can happen?
We will try our best.
The outdoor cricket season generally runs from May to September, then the game is moved indoors.
It's very nice to play cricket in Iceland, although the weather conditions are not always favorable. We try our best to play in the given situations, and it's quite fun playing cricket here.
Nothing, it seems, can stand in the way of players and a good time.
It's such a passion for me to watch the cricket and to participate in the cricket and to talk about the cricket. It is so much of my life and my personality. It's my one true love.
When the neighbourhood pond froze over a couple of years ago, the cricketers grabbed the opportunity to play the game they love on a different surface. These guys bring real-life meaning to Bob Marley's classic hit, I Don't Like Cricket, I Love It. There's been widespread praise for Iceland cricket's social media presence. The numbers, the follower numbers across social media platforms are growing by the day. It's the insightful interactions and engaging content, they say, that's been getting them all the clicks, likes and shares. Iceland cricket have been bowling over their followers one witty post at a time.
I came for the banter, but I stayed when I saw the passion that Iceland cricket has for the sport, from grassroots to women and gender equality within the sport.
We try and represent a persona of this fun Icelander who has a nationalistic viewpoint. He tries to link everything back to Iceland as much as possible, but tries also to, not take everything so seriously.
They're on most platforms, but it's their X account that is most popular, having grown from a handful of subscribers to over 130,000.
It's also a good opportunity for us to engage with
the cricketing world out there, that we can also have a platform.
The social media department is effectively a one-person operation. We have promised not to reveal the admin's identity. Iceland Cricket, in turn, have pledged to keep the engaging posts coming. In their words, we'll keep knocking it out of the park.
Iceland Cricket and their bunch of part-timers say they'll keep working overtime to keep the dream alive because they don't like cricket, they love it. This is definitely a story we'll keep track of, monitor their progress over the coming months and years. From myself, Robin Adams, the rest of the TRT World team on location in Iceland, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.